Lending, and we're actually reporting out of the ESPN studio, 730 The Game. If you've just tuned in, we were talking here this afternoon, or this morning, excuse me, about the 7 key considerations on how a first-time buyer can win in real estate. We've got Preston Sandlin in the house from Home Inspection Carolinas, Mike Perlosky from eXp Realty, and Mike Trochet from NFM Lending. We've been knocking out these considerations like choosing the right realtor, finding a home in the right area, location, examining comps, and even understanding where you're going to get your biggest bang for your buck in terms of renovating, in terms of considerations on how to win in real estate. But Mike, let's talk a minute about really the next bullet, which is understanding your finance options. You as a realtor, your particular process would be you work with a client because they usually call you first, and then what happens?
So I'll talk with the client, just, verify. Well, very first thing I do, verify if they are pre-approved.
Okay.
Which you guys come into. So I just want to make sure they're pre-approved. I don't want them to, waste their time,
Reality yours.
Yeah, mine too. Which obviously would get them frustrated if they're, they find something, get excited, then they find out they can't qualify for it. Nobody wants that to happen. So that's why we ask for that kind of thing. The next thing I would do, just find out what they're looking for. What neighborhoods you're looking for. What school areas, what school districts do you want to be in? How many bedrooms and bathrooms you're looking for? Do you want a fixer-upper? Do you want move-in ready? Those types of things.
Perfect. So, and if they need the renovation financing, that's where Mike Trochet probably would come in. So you typically would maybe hand the name off to Mike Trochet if they haven't already been pre-approved.
Correct.
If they have. And Mike Trochet, do you want to grab the mic for a quick sec here? Why don't we take a minute? What typically is the minimum requirement for a down payment if someone wants to purchase the home and renovate it at the same time?
Depends on the program. If it's an FHA, it will be 3.5% down, an FHA loan. If it's a conventional loan, it will be 3% down for the first-time homeowner. And those programs are not just for a house that's ready to buy. Those programs and those amounts are also for these homes that need renovations done also.
Exactly. I know NFM offers 2 different programs or types of renovation loans. The first one is an FHA, like you said, requiring 3.5% down. The other one is a conventional loan. But what we're talking about, folks, is you could buy or purchase a home for $100,000. Mike helps you find that house. Then we get a general contractor to provide a bid. Let's just call it $25,000. And so the lending institution, NFM Lending, and our team will help you. You add those 2 together, 100 plus 25,000 equals 125. And then your down payment requirement, depending on the program you chose, would be 3 or 3.5% of the total. So when you buy that home, you're not only just buying the home, but you're borrowing the money to renovate it all at the same time. The home closes, and then there's that money, that $25,000 is set aside in an escrow account to then turn around and pay the contractor to do the work. You don't renovate it until you own it. So all the renovations take place after you sign the paperwork. So it's a pretty cool thing. The conventional loan is called a home style.
Correct.
And the FHA loan, because we always have acronyms, is called a 203K. So there are different names for the programs, but it's really just an FHA renovation loan and a conventional renovation loan. So,
and it's a great program, again, with the problem with the scarcity of inventory. You can find that diamond in the rough, and people don't realize that. Look past the fact that the home may not have been updated since the 70s. You can get in there and make the home the way you want it and finance that in there. It's a great tool that I think, more people should take advantage of if they're not. And, with someone like Mike as a realtor who understands that part of the business and that life of renovations, it's a great tool to have where you can find a customer that home that otherwise they wouldn't have even thought twice about looking into.
Yes, it solves the but factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like everything but. The house is amazing, location is great,
Right.
It's got the floor plan that I want, but it doesn't have that second bathroom that we really, really need. Whatever it might be.
And it'll be quicker than a new construction as well. So
Right.
and
exactly.
you get to pick out what you want to do.
And your house might not be squeezed right next to 6 others.
Absolutely.
You might have mature trees.
Yeah.
Right. So those are all good things, but really, it's important to understand that there are finance options for people that maybe have found a great home that just isn't quite what they're looking for, and the renovation loan could be a way to solve that problem. And really, I think in the end goes back to our theme, winning in real estate. Because oftentimes when you do that, you're taking a house that's got some weaknesses for whatever reason, maybe somebody kind of made a floor plan that wasn't that great, needs a little adjusting, but when you go to sell, now it's got that extra bedroom, that extra bathroom, that knocked out kitchen, whatever it might be,
Right.
and it makes that home worth that much more in the end.
Instant equity.
Instant equity.
Instant equity.
Yep.
There you go.
That's the goal.
All right, let's go to number 6 out of the 7 considerations on how a first-time buyer can win in real estate. Number 6 is choose the right contractor. Mike, our realtor in the house, is going to share some thoughts on that.
Well, obviously, if someone goes with the 2 or 3K loan or the home renovation program, I believe, you have to go with a contractor that
That's
is
correct.
approved through the program, so I'm sure you guys can touch on that. But besides that, obviously you want someone who's licensed, bonded, and insured. Someone who's available right now. You don't want to find, maybe a contractor, but maybe they're not available for 2 months, 3 months.
I call it LBI, licensed, bonded, and insured, right?
Yes.
I mean, when something happens, which things happen, roofers fall off the roof on your property, guess who they sue?
Yeah.
You.
You.
Mhm.
Right. You didn't make them fall, but you're the one who owns the house, so you gotta be careful.
Right. Obviously, it's someone like I just touched on who has experience with the renovation loan process, and obviously you want to get multiple bids. Usually people say 2 to 3 bids, and the cheapest isn't always the best. So
Absolutely.
people need to keep that in mind.
No, I've seen that too before. I had, and hopefully my client is not listening, but I did have a client who I'd given them 3 recommendations. I said, these 3 contractors have done renovations with us before, and I don't have a preference. I'm not even technically allowed to really push or guide anybody to a particular contractor. And he went with someone that was more like a handyman kind of deal. And he called me after he had closed, and it had been a number of months. The guy stopped coming. The siding was put on with the wrong nails. It was leading water into the back of the siding. The trim was never put up around the doors. Water was leaking into the house. There were gaps in like the sliding door to where the drywall wasn't even flush up to where the windows and the sliders had been put in. And it was going to cost like all kinds of money for arbitration. He ended up spending his own money renovating it himself, and the contractor got about 50% of the funds that he couldn't get back. It turned out to be a major mess, and it was a lesson for me just to be reminding my clients that, look, the cheapest isn't always the best, right?
Check references too.
Yeah, check references. I mean, it's just
Find out some other jobs.
just like if you're hiring an employee, you really gotta check it out.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're doing the right thing. So that is super important. All right, so choosing the right contractor was number 6, 6th consideration. So let's go to the 7th consideration here. As we sort of wrap up, we've got a few minutes left in the segment. So in terms of if you're a first-time buyer, you want to win in real estate, we're helping you maybe how to consider properties, look at a way to buy a home uniquely, maybe renovate at the same time to get some extra equity or instant equity. But you said, Mike, that the buyer needs to understand tax ramifications. And what do you mean by that?
Absolutely. And just for full disclosure, I am not a tax professional.
You say it
so-
Neither are
I know we always have to say that. So.
we could use a good one to sponsor Rush Hour Radio, by the way.
If you're out there.
You're out there and
Yeah.
you're a tax.
But no, typically, if you're in the house for, there's short-term and long-term gains. So if you're in the house for less than 2 years, it's going to be a short-term gain, and you're going to have to pay, I believe, whatever your tax rate is on the gain. If you're in the house for more than 2 years and it's your primary residence, you don't have to pay any tax, which is an amazing tool for people who are buying their first home, want to do some renovations, have some instant equity. Later on, 2 years, 3 years, whatever down the line, you get all that money, when you sell, and then you can put into the next property if you'd like to.
Cool. Pretty straightforward. So we definitely want to have you encourage them to seek a counsel of the CPA.
Absolutely.
But these are things that you've got to think about, right? Because really,
Correct.
real estate is not just about getting the right house. It's also planning the exit strategy. And a good
Correct.
realtor like Mike is going to talk you through the resources that you need to go to and the things that we need to consider at the front end and on the back end, because he wants to be able to put that sign in the yard, sell it for top dollar, whether that's 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years down the road, and have you step in as a first-time buyer into that next home with a good chunk of equity,
Absolutely.
without a lot of taxes, right?
Yes.
Hopefully that's the case. So that's the whole goal of Rush Hour Radio, is really to educate people through this process. So let me remind you that if you're listening and you hear anything that's of interest to you, you need to contact our guests and experts here in the studio. You can call me at 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. So real quick, Mike, we are going to sort of wrap up your segment here. You had mentioned that you have an incentive for anyone that may call that may need your services, whether it's buying or selling.
Correct.
What is your incentive you want to share with our listeners?
My incentive, I'm a huge proponent of home warranties, so what I'll do for people is I'll offer them a free home warranty on, when they close, just to protect them for that first year.
And that warranty really is going to say if something major fails, there's a policy there to protect, like a dishwasher or a garage door or whatever. Your out-of-pocket expense would be minimal,
Right.
and the coverage would cover most major damage, not all.
Can I add something
Please
to
do.
that? I wanna offer, if somebody, buys or sells a home through Mike, in the month of September, because we're like the last day of August, we'll do $50 off a home inspection if you buy or sell with Mike in the month of September.
Awesome. Thank you, Preston.
Awesome. All right, well, we've got one more segment with Preston. He's got a honey-do list. We're not going to call it the honey-do list, but
It's
we're going to call it
Mike's list. That's what we're gonna start calling
Not good, not good.
fall maintenance checklist. So stay tuned. You can't wait to hear this, since we got mostly male listeners, right? Here's everything that you don't want to tell your wife about that you should be doing on your house this fall. So again, you're listening to Rush Hour Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshtar. Stay tuned. We got one more segment. We'll be right back.